and the civics and law faculty of and the honorable for our speaker, Prof. Wiel Professor Veugelers has extensive expertise in the field of social and political science, making him an infallible research purchase company. Prof. Wiel is from the Netherlands. He is a professor in humanistic study at the UNY Angkatan. Before we delve into our seminar discussions, let's take a moment. Civics education is not merely about learning the mechanical of government. It's about instilling ethical value, moral principle, and in-depth understanding of political to our citizens. Before we proceed, some important housekeeping for our seminar is please enter your mobile phone or turn it off or on silent mode. We welcome your question and answer, encourage you to save them for the Q&A session. Now, without further ado, it's our to invite Professor Wiel to deliver his keynote address on the ethical value and moral political dimension in civic education as the foundation to various citizens of the 21st century. Almost for you.
Are you saying a few words?
No. I think you can start.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. And I want to thank again University Yogyakarta, and in particular the Department of Social Education, and Dr. Samsuri for inviting me again to be here. I think it's already about my seventh time that I'm here at your university. And I like your university. And I like the students and the teachers. And I think they do an important job. And I'm cooperating with Dr. Samsuri already now for 10 years. And this week we will present a book that we made together, a book in Bahasa
Indonesia.
And I cannot speak Bahasa, sorry. But I hope you can understand my English.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And so I will speak quite a lot, but feel free to ask questions in between, and so that we can have more a dialogue. It's not only me speaking to the students. So I'm from the Netherlands, and as you know, we have a common heritage. For a long time, the Dutch was the colonizer of Indonesia. And I think we did some good things, but we also did some bad things. We could say sorry for that. And I also have a personal connection with Indonesia. My wife, Jane, she's with me now here in Indonesia. She was born in Surabaya. And her family come from Malang. And she lived a few years of Balikpapan. And her family is mixed Indonesian, mixed Netherlands, mixed Dutch. But after the independence of Indonesia, it became quite difficult for the Dutch people to stay here. So her family left the Netherlands, like many people. And but her family and also Jane, they still really like Indonesia. The people, the food, the vegetables, the fruits. So, and the culture, the music,
Mhm.
and James speaks a little bit past some words. But I also think it's important that the Netherlands and Indonesia has partly a common history. So it's very good that there are good connections between the Netherlands and Indonesia. And I was very happy that Dr. Samsuri came to visit us my university in February this
February.
year. And I said, we really enjoyed it. Come down.
Yeah.
And, so we walk around in Utrecht, we walk around in Amsterdam, and we saw the old buildings, and in particular of the canals in Amsterdam and Utrecht that have been built often with money from the VOC. You don't know what the VOC was,
POC.
VOC.
Yeah.
We earned a lot of money there and made nice houses of that money in the Netherlands. And so we should never forget that. But nowadays, Indonesia is an independent country. And I think we should be proud of that. And I've also realized that Indonesia is one of the best democracies in Asia. So maybe some of you have some critics about democracy in Indonesia. I can imagine that. But still, the democracy is the state. You're more expert than I am. But so it's very important that Indonesia try to improve the democracy. Like I was showing you in my talk, democracy is never finished. It can always be better. And teachers of citizenship education, so your future profession, need different that. So today in the lecture, I want to present research in how we can improve citizenship education. To make it more democratic, to get people more engaged, more active participants, and making a more nice world. So I hope we can contribute to that. As you can see here, the picture, that's the picture. The building at the left is my university. University of Humanistic Studies in Utrecht. It's really in the center of Utrecht. We have a small canal in front of it. The first definition of citizenship education. This is a definition that's been used also in the ICCF project. And ICCF is the International Study of Citizen and Citizenship Education. And I'm a member of their advisory board. So education for citizenship is about acquiring the abilities and attitudes necessary to participate in political and civic life on local, national, and global levels. Important here is that we are speaking about abilities and attitudes. That means citizenship education is about knowledge, about skills, and about attitudes. I'm always saying that you can know a lot about democracy, about the rules of democracy. You can have a lot of democratic skills, for example, having a good discussion. And you also know how to vote, how to present your voice, those skills. But the most important thing is, I say, the attitude, that you want to be a democratic person, that you want to deliberate with other people to find a common solution, that you have a pluralist idea, that you respect other people. So those aspects of democracy are very important, and they are all linked to attitudes. So therefore, I really emphasize the importance of attitudes for citizenship education. The citizenship is on the local level, on the national level, but also on the global level. Nowadays, people often speak about global citizenship, and I also will speak about that. The second part of the definition of citizenship education is more interpersonal. It's about relating to other people, in particular people with different social, cultural, and ethnic backgrounds. Many nations, also Indonesia, also the Netherlands, they have a diversity of cultural groups. Democracy is very important that they can live together, that they appreciate each other, that they can work together. So the relating to others is very important in daily life, in working life, in your life as student, but also in society. It's important that citizens relate well to other people. And the third element of citizenship education in this definition is the concern for sustainability of humanity, human beings, the planet, and of democracy. Nowadays, people have, you could say, enlarged the idea of citizenship. It's not only about people, what people are relating, but also about sustainability of the planet and how we relate to animals, how we relate to trees. So also to the other parts of the biological sphere. As you can see nowadays, the definition of citizenship education, particularly in democratic countries, is very broad. And it's related not only to the political, but also to the social and the cultural field. Therefore, I speak that nowadays, after the recent decades, we have seen a deepening of the concept of citizenship. Originally, it was only on the political level, about how to participate in politics. But nowadays, it's also about social life, how you relate to other people, about the culture. For example, what is the culture of Indonesian society? Also, what's the culture of the Dutch society? So the culture is also now part of citizenship education. And more recently, as I just explained already, also about nature. So the concept of citizenship, you can say, has been deepening from the political to the social, to the cultural, and to the natural world. But nowadays, the concept of citizenship is very broad. It's nearly the whole identity of people. Maybe only not more personal aspect of identity, the more religious part. But the more social and political and cultural part is now included in the concept of citizenship. But the concept of citizenship has also been broadening from the national level to the regional level and to the global level. At the regional level, for example, in Europe, we also speak about the European citizenship as being a member of the European Union. And I also know that here in Southeast Asia, many countries are working together. Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, they're working together in the, I hope I pronounce it well, ASEAN. ASEAN, yeah. So there's also a kind of kind of identity, kind of citizenship. And nowadays people are speaking about global citizenship. In particular, UNESCO is using that word, global citizenship education. Come back to that later on. But in particular, the deepening of the concept has made moral education and citizenship more connected. Moral education, or like some people are saying, character education, is about the personal development of people. But citizenship education, in particular in its modern ideas, is also linked with the identity development. So there's a strong link between moral education and citizenship education. Some characteristics of Dutch educational system are relevant for citizenship education. What do you know about the Netherlands?
Ada yang tahu tentang pendidikan di Belanda? Ada yang tahu? They don't already know. They don't already know about the education in Dutch.
Yeah, but what do you need to do?
What do you think? What do you think? Apa yang harus kita tahu? Oh, pendidikan di Belanda itu gimana? Apa? Better than Indonesia? No, it's not better. Ada lagi? Disiplin, terus canggih ya, terus apa lagi? Nah,
Canggih is sophisticated. Canggih is sophisticated.
berkualitas. They say that education in Dutch is more, what is it in English? It's more compatible with Indonesia. It's more, they have so much discipline area.
Okay, yeah, good, yeah. And what do you know outside education about the Netherlands?
Selain ini pendidikan, apa yang di pikiran kalian tentang Belanda?
Kincir angin, wine turbine. Kincir turbine, wine. Tulip.
Tulips, yeah.
Apa? Ya, sign. Ada lagi?
Ajax.
Ajax?
Iya.
The canals, yeah.
Lagi? Apa? Budaya berjalan yang if you want to answer the question, I will give you the microphone and microphone. I'm going to copy.
Oh, susu, keju, cheese.
Cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ada lagi? Ada apa lagi? Ada lagi?
Monarchy. Kingdom.
Kingdom. Oh yeah, that's King Willem Alexander is called, yeah, William Alexander. And yeah, we have been a kingdom for about 300 years. Yeah. And do you know where exactly the Netherlands is in Europe?
Ada yang tahu di mana Belanda itu lokasinya di Europe itu di bagian mana? Ada yang tahu? Ini Eropa Barat.
Western Europe.
Western Europe, yeah. Not Western Europe. Beside Germany. Germany and Belgium. And we call it the Netherlands. The Netherlands means the lower lands. And as you know, half of the Dutch country is below the sea level. and we have a lot of dikes to prevent the Netherlands from the sea. So therefore, climate change is really an issue for the Netherlands. Because when the sea is
Right.
higher,
Higher.
it's more dangerous for the Netherlands. Like Jakarta,
Yeah.
we know about that.
Yeah, of course.
And I know the Dutch companies are working together with Indonesia for protecting Jakarta from
Yeah.
So the Netherlands. Also, sometimes people are using the word Holland. Holland. But Holland is only the western part of the Netherlands.
Jadi kalau orang Belanda jangan Holland ya, orang Holland itu hanya bagian dari kota Belanda. Jadi bagian dari Belanda.
And the language we are speaking is Dutch. Dutch. It's not German. It's different from German. A little bit similar, but different. And I know that in Bahasa there are quite a lot of Dutch words. Do you know some of Dutch the word that originally Dutch words?
Ada yang tahu siapa di bahasa Belanda yang kita punya? Apa? Handuk ini tahu kan?
Hallo?
Power.
Tahu.
Pardon?
Bengkel, gratis.
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 Ja. Bankgoed.
Bangkrut.
No.
No, bukan.
Strafrecht.
Strafrecht. Strafrecht.
Strafrecht.
Hukum pidana.
Oh iya, betul itu semua fungsi dari
Distrap dihukum.
kantor.
Kantoor, yeah, kantoor. Office, yeah, kantoor, yeah. So many words relating to law and to organizing society are from original Dutch.
Dutch is slightly harder than German language.
So that's more general about the Netherlands. And we are having 70 million people living there. And quite a lot, now about 20% are originally from other countries, migrants. And about 400,000 people in the Netherlands, they have some roots in Indonesia, about 400,000. And also, maybe of interest for you is that we have quite a big Islamic population. People from Morocco, from Turkey, who came to work in the Netherlands, and also quite a lot of refugees from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Iran. And totally there are about 1 million Muslim people in the Netherlands. So we have 70 million totally, about 1 million Muslim people. But most people are Christian people in the Netherlands. And about the same size are Protestant people and the same size are Catholic people. But half of the people in the Netherlands, they don't have a religion. And some of them call them humanists. I'm also more to humanism than to religion. Humanism means that you try to support human beings, humanity, human rights. And so in the Netherlands, there are quite a lot of people who don't have a religion. But religion is still quite strong in education. As I showed there, don't two-thirds of religion schools. They are mostly Catholic or Protestant schools, and also we have some Islamic schools, in particular primary education and some in secondary education. And those religious schools are fully paid by the government. And they also have to follow the national curriculum. Decide for the topic for the subject of religious studies. But maybe you can imagine that speaking about the curriculum, there are often debates about what is relating to religion and what is relating to citizenship. But therefore, it's not that easy because of the strong position of religious schools. Therefore, it's not that easy to make a curriculum for citizenship education. I'll come back to that later on. So the Christian schools quite have a lot of influence in Dutch education. We also have a very selective system. As you just said before, we have a sophisticated system. But all that I think that's true, that's quite a system. But we also have a very selective system. And that means that at the age of 12, students have to do a test. And according to that test, they can go to one of the 6 level education, of secondary education. So that test returns already a big part of the future. Many countries in Europe, for example, Scandinavian countries, they have like Sweden and Denmark and Finland, they have a selection when students are 14 years old. But we have a selection at 12. But that gives a lot of stress to students in primary education. To do their best, to have good grades, and to do the test well. As I said already before, there's a weak steering of educational policy, particularly in the field of Christian education. The government is saying citizenship is important and they have some general rules, but not a very, very detailed curriculum, like I know from Dr. Samsuri, you have in Indonesia. Schools they have quite a lot of freedom to make their own curriculum of citizenship. And for teachers, that's quite interesting because they can put more their own ideas in it. So it has some advantage and also some disadvantage. The schools have quite a lot of autonomy to make their own curriculum. We really have a shortage of teachers, like in many Western countries. Particularly for languages, not so much for English, but for other languages, Dutch and German and French, and mathematics. And in the Netherlands, students have to do a lot of exams. There's a lot of testing. And there's a lot of focus on the basics of language and mathematics. So there's some general characteristics of Dutch education that are relevant for speaking about moral education and citizenship, of course. Now I want to speak a little bit more about teaching and learning. About learning, because students and people in general always learn. Not only when they are in the classroom, but also outside the classroom. You learn many things the whole day long. And nowadays, in educational psychology, the social constructive view is dominant. Maybe you've heard about that, social constructivism. And that means that people are given a personal meaning. Learning is kind of process of meaning giving. When you speak about a topic you color it yourself. The personal meaning. Personal process of giving meaning. But you never do that alone, fully alone. You do that in dialogue with other people. You use resources that are among you, in books, in what other people are saying. The learning is both personal and biological. These ideas are very much influenced by pedagogues like John Dewey, Vygotsky, particularly biological learning. So learning is a social constructive way of giving meaning to the world. And I always speak about 3 learning processes that are necessary. Reflective learning, maybe you have been reading about reflective learning. That people, in particular also teachers, to think about their activities, their work. And in that reflection, you use more criteria. Also, when you speak about critical thinking is never fully logic and argumentation. They have made moral decisions on what is good and what is not good. So it's important to include moral criteria in reflection and in critical thinking. That's the first learning process that we should follow. The second one is what I call biological learning, and that's interaction with other people. And it's important to do that in an open way. Biological working and learning is not that you say what the other people should say, but that you together try to find what is best. Well, in particular, the work of Martin Buber, but also Paulo Freire, is influential in the thinking about biological as an open learning process. A search, you can say, is a search for meaning. And I add a certain kind of learning process to it, and that's what I call democratic learning. And that's dialogue can be quite the kind of debating that people are opposing ideas. But for a democracy, it's also important that you find a kind of agreement. That people have a deliberation and try to find a common sense, how to find a solution. So that's democratic learning. To value differences, but also to try to bring together. So these are some of my ideas about learning, a more social constructive view. When you have such a view on learning, you cannot speak about transfer. Transfer, that concept is too mechanistic. It's too formal. It doesn't give enough space to the personal meaning of the students. So even now, I'm speaking, and you all make your own ideas about what I'm saying. And that's your personal process of giving meaning to it. And it's not a question of good or bad. It's your personal meaning that is developing. So when we are speaking about teaching, we should really be aware of this kind of learning process, in which each student has his own learning processes. Where can we find moral education and citizenship education. And I'm speaking about a whole school approach. I'm not the only one who does that. More people are speaking about a whole school approach to moral education and citizenship education. In the first place, you can have a special subject, citizenship education. And like you are studying to become a teacher of citizenship. It's a specific subject. But also aspects of citizenship are integrated in all subjects. For example, in geography, in history, in literature, in science, in all subjects, there are elements of moral education and citizenship education. Also, the way of learning and teaching is very important. How people are learning. As I just said, we cannot think only in terms of value transfer. We should think about learning more in a dialogical way. So the way of learning and teaching is very important. But also part of the whole school approach of citizenship education is the school culture. How students relate to each other, how they are living together, how they are learning together, how they relate to the teachers. Are the teachers the very authoritarian person who dictate everything, or are teachers more open to dialogue, to give students the possibility to influence the curriculum, to influence activities? So the school culture is very important. There are quite a lot of scholars who say that the school culture is more important for learning and citizenship education than the formal curriculum. I think it's difficult to say what is most important, but I would say both are very important. Curriculum and also the school culture. Some people, like Joel Westheimer, Walter Parker, they are saying that you cannot learn democracy only by books. You can learn democracy by experiencing. That you experience, that you can have an influence on what's going on in the school, what's going on in the classroom, what's going on in society. So the experience of democracy is very important. And that can partly be by the school culture. And it's important to link school and society. To focus a little bit more on school culture. In the school culture, students experience values in how the teacher is working, how the students are living together. They experience values. And in the school culture, interpersonal relationships are very important. It's nice to see that many of you are really hanging around with other students. Okay, I can see that they have a relationship with each other, that they are living together, that they hang around together. So it's very important, that kind of relationship. The students are not getting isolated. That was one of the worries with the COVID, when the school closure were in the Netherlands. We also had school closure. Students really felt isolated, being at home, and not having a chance to meet other students. So interpersonal relationships are very important. Then the school called the organization. How the school is organized. What possibilities for student participation? What different activities there are in school. So the organization of the school is important. And I think it's very important that in school there is a diversity of students and a diversity of teachers. One of the complicated, difficult things in Dutch education is that we have that early selection, and then mostly students only meet students that are on the same level, on the sixth level. And so they don't meet, for example, the people that are students at the higher level, they don't meet students that are on the lower level of education, the more vocational tracks. So it's important to have a diversity of students in schools. I think that's very important, particularly for when we speak about citizenship education. But also a diversity of teachers is important. I think for a school, for university or college, it's important that they have a different diversity within teachers. Different gender, different culture, different religions, different age, different sexual orientations, different ideas, different political backgrounds. So it's very good if there is a diversity in the team of teachers. I think that's very good for citizenship education. Because we shouldn't forget that teachers have a kind of moral example. They show what's important in society. In the knowledge, but also in the way they are behaving. In more democratic societies, you have a school system that gives more positive relations between teachers and students than in a very authoritarian system. But democracy is not only outside the class, but also inside the classroom. So these are all aspects of the school course who are very important when speaking about citizenship education. Any questions or remarks?
Ada pertanyaan sejauh ini, before that question, let me to give the translation of what the mention. Oke, jadi tadi yang tadi ini Mbak simpulkan sedikit ya, yang berikutnya. Nah, di pendidikan kewarganegaraan di Indonesia itu adalah pendidikan demokratis yang sangat kuat karena dia tidak hanya membahas tentang kewarganegaraan, tapi juga tentang politik, kultur dan budaya itu menyatu menjadi satu. Itulah mengapa konsep kewarganegaraan sangat mendunia, bukan hanya membahas mengenai satu saja, tetapi lebih umum dan kompatibel seperti oleh kewarganegaraan. Ketika itu ada tiga, nasional, negara, regional seperti Asia Tenggara dan global. Kemudian di dalam pendidikan kewarganegaraan juga pendidikan moral dan pendidikan kewarganegaraan. Nah, di Belanda itu ada beberapa sekolah, religious school dan formal school. Nah, religious school itu biasanya sekolah berbasis Katolik dan Protestan seperti itu. Kemudian sekolah di Belanda itu berbeda dengan sekolah di negara yang lain. Sekolah di negara Belanda itu mulai dari 12 dia bisa masuk sekolah SMP formal itu dari 12 tahun, tetapi kalau di sekolah Skandinavia itu lebih lama, yaitu 14 tahun. Nah, di Belanda itu ada banyak sekali tes dalam masuk dari setiap jenjangnya. Kemudian dia tadi menjelaskan dengan 3 proses belajar. Dan kita menggunakan bahasa proses ya, bukan transfer, karena kalau transfer itu atau profil itu sangat mekanikal, sedangkan pembelajaran itu tidak mekanikal, tapi kita yang digunakan dalam bahasa profil adalah proses belajar. Profil ini tadi menjelaskan beberapa proses belajar. Yang pertama reflective learning, memikirkan aktivitas saat sebelum dan setelah pembelajaran atau belajar. kemudian dialogtikal itu
Interpretation.
kenapa pelajaran, kemudian bersama mencari pencerahan semua. Nah, dialogtikal itu didukung dengan pengertian dari Martin Buber tentang open learning proses. Seperti itu, kemudian democratic learning mencari hal yang baik dalam masalah, kemudian mencari solusi terbaik. Kemudian subjek dari pendidikan kewarganegaraan ini berkesinambungan dalam semua pembelajaran studi internasional. Kemudian cara seseorang untuk belajar dan mengajar penting dalam pembelajaran kewarganegaraan. Kemudian budaya sekolah. Nah, Palmer ini menjelaskan tentang budaya sekolah ini. You cannot learn democracy by book. It's also by school and society. The experience of the democracy is important. Jadi kalau belajar demokrasi tidak habis dari buku saja, tapi yang belajar demokrasi setidaknya adalah pendidikan kemasyarakatan seperti itu. Kemudian dibahas juga tentang hubungan sekolah dan masyarakat. Setelah itu kita belajar mengenai budaya kewarganegaraan internasional. Pertama adalah berbagi pengetahuan dan pengembangan nilai. Kedua adalah hubungan antar personal strategi. Yang ketiga adalah organisasi yang dalam budaya sekolah. Yang kelima adalah pembelajaran berbasis keberagaman budaya sekolah. Kemudian pembelajaran moral. Ada 3 poin ini sudah dijelaskan oleh Prof. Ada pertanyaan? Oke, boleh. We will give you the microphone and help you say where you from and salutation. Oh, boleh. Berikan semua.
In bahasa dan translate to English.
Oh, boleh.
Berdiri aja, berdiri.
Sebetulnya tantangan bisa dikeluarkan. Saya berdiri bertanya. Tadi saya bahwasanya ibadah adalah orang dan formal. Pertanyaan saya, bagaimana asal dari bisa mengajarkan tentang toleransi? Karena di saat tidak jauh dari tempat sekolah tersebut, maka di saat mereka keluar akan masa terpikir di antara apa yang mereka terjadi dan apa yang mereka terjadi di luar. Itu yang pertama. Lalu yang kedua, terkait dengan school culture gitu. Pertanyaan saya, berdasar yang bagaimana entah itu siswa atau mahasiswa bisa mengikuti perbedaan pendapat atau masuk di sekolah atau di kampus terhadap apa yang mereka pilih. Itu pertanyaan.
Namanya siapa?
Dewa Maulana.
Oh, Dewa Maulana.
Terima kasih.
Let me translate in English. Okay, the first question is, we already know that Netherlands we have 2 types of school, the religious school and the public school. The question is how the religious school teach the democracy.
Tolerance and tolerance.
Even though they are not democratic, even they have the same. Any other answer? The second question is school cultures. When the student has a different opinion than the school, what we gonna do? What the school gonna do? Their situation. Jadi yang pertanyaannya pertama, kalau sekolah itu sekolah keagamaan, gimana mereka membelajarkan tentang perbedaan, sedangkan mereka itu sekolah. Kemudian yang kedua, budaya sekolah, gimana mereka budaya sekolah tadi, gimana mereka jika mereka punya perbedaan, mau kepentingan tidak di sekolah dan lain-lain, apa yang mereka lakukan di sekolah itu. That's all the question from me.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. 2 interesting questions. So the first one about the public schools and the religious schools. And as I said before, religious schools, they have to follow the curriculum for all the subjects except for religious studies. Religious studies, they can make their own curriculum. And the religious schools, they may select students. The public schools, they have to accept all students. And the religious schools, they can say, with your ideas, we don't want you. And, but quite a lot of religious schools, they accept quite a lot of students, also students who don't have the same religion. And so within the religious schools, you have a quite big range of different kinds of schools. Some are very traditional, and some are more open. So the traditional schools, they're really focusing on their own religion. For example, in the subject religious studies, but also in the advice for them to close the year, and the kind of food that they give, and things like that. And but other schools, and also other religious schools, are more tolerant. But they give more space to students to have their own ideas, their own religious ceremonies, their own clothes, their own food they want to eat. So there is a difference within the religions. And the school inspectorate, who controls the schools, they really take care of that schools are tolerate, that they are tolerating different ideas. Also the more traditional religious schools. So it's not easy, but most schools don't have problems with that. But sometimes there are really issues that the school inspectorate saying, so you emphasize not enough democracy in schools. So sometimes you have that problem. And as I said, in the subject religious studies, schools have more freedom to make their own choices. And also there, more traditional schools, they mostly speak about their own religion, but also other schools they give opportunities to listen to different religions. For example, they invite different religious persons from different religions, or students, they go to visit both church and mosque, synagogue, different religious places. So the Dutch government formally really wants to stimulate that students learn a lot about different religions. So that about religion. In the public schools, students don't have a subject religious studies, but they have often have to have a subject that's more related to citizenship education, and this. But in public schools, students have the choice for a subject, for example, Christian religious studies, Catholic religious studies, Islamic religious studies, Jewish religious studies, and also humanist religious studies, and humanist and ethical studies. So they can choose the religious study they want. So it's not an obligation to go to one of them, you can choose for it. So I think that's very good and very important. A good point of public schools. So that's your first question about the religious schools and the public schools. So thank you for that. And the second question is about if students have different opinions. Formally have different opinions. If it's all within democratic boundaries. And I mean within the rule of law. For example, a student may say, all students should become, I say, all students should become Christian. You say that. You may have that opinion, but you may not say we should put Christians in prison. You may not say that. So you can have different opinions. And I say, from the point of view of citizenship education, from the point of view of democracy, it's good if there are different opinions in the classroom. Then you can learn from each other. Yeah, and you can try to influence the ideas of other people. I think it's very important to have different opinions. But then it's I think it's relevant that people have opinions that are also willing to think about them. So not fixed only to their own opinions. For example, in the Netherlands, quite at the moment, quite popular is play House of Parliament, like in the UK. Yeah? And it is part of citizenship. And often that really becomes fighting with words between groups, not an exchange of ideas, only shouting to each other. So one of my students did a research on that, and she gave good suggestions how you can make the House of Parliament more dialogical, that people listening more to other arguments, and not only are shouting to each other. So it's very important that not only to have different ideas, different opinions, but also that people are willing to think about them and maybe change them. So this is a good question again, because that's at the heart of your job, teaching citizenship education, working with different opinions. It's not easy. I'm not saying that it's easy working with different opinions, but it's quite important for your job. Okay, thank you for those questions.
Bisa ditahan lagi Mbak, karena kemarin sedikit ya, Mbak ini translating
Ya,
di Belanda itu sekolah berbasis agama itu ada dua ya, itu sekolah berbasis agama yang terbuka dan masih tradisional. Jika sekolah itu kan ada dua jenisnya, kalau yang terbuka mereka lebih toleran dibandingkan yang tradisional. Mereka juga bisa memperhatikan kebijakan agama mana. Kalau yang di terbuka tadi, misalnya dia Katolik, sedangkan dia ingin membantu tentang Protestan, mereka bisa diberikan pilihan begitu. Kemudian pembentukan demokrasi tadi dimulai dari sekolah, dan itulah yang membuat pembelajaran demokrasi itu lebih kuat. Menyeimbangkan antara budaya sekolah dan demokratis, memang seringkali terjadi perbedaan pendapat banyak, tapi itulah buat mereka lebih dinamis seperti itu. Sudah jelas tadi. Terima kasih pertanyaannya yang menarik. We open another question. I hope everyone is with the microphone.
Open discussed.
Yeah.
Saya ini ya sebelumnya saya Rosik dari Pendidikan. Pertanyaan saya, apa sih keunggulan dari yang bisa diterapkan?
What is advantage educational Netherlands system? What advantage? Oh, terima kasih. Double water mineral.
They have a question for Rossi. Yeah, pertanyaan ini, what's the superiority and the difference between
Advantage.
education the Netherlands that we gonna close to Indonesia? Like what the best point of the civic education on the Netherlands that we gonna choose to be education? Itu ada ya. Apa yang membuat pendidikan kewarganegaraan itu lebih kepada Indonesia dan buat apa? Terima kasih, Prof.
Yeah. Um, Good question, and not easy. And in the Netherlands, many people have concerns about the level of reading and mathematics. And the Netherlands often participate in international studies. And for example, in the PISA study on language and also on science, the result of the Netherlands has gone down. But in most Western countries, it's going down. And the Netherlands is not growing that fast now. But there are really concerns about that. But I think this is also a question of the changes people have made after computers and after mobile phones. For example, before you had to do more mathematics in your head. Now you take your cell phone to take.
Yeah.
So you don't have enough exercise outside school in mathematics. The same with writing. It's nice that I see some people writing with a pen. But normally people don't write anymore. They only put a few lines on the computer, and they don't look themselves if the grammar is correct. No, they ask the office if they are doing well. So it's so often people are blaming the teachers that they don't teach the students well, to well writing, to well mathematics. But it's not only the fault of the teachers, it's also the fault of the changes in society. Maybe even let's say it's the fault of the mobile phones. That we don't write anymore, and that we don't count anymore ourselves. But the mobile phone is doing everything.
Di Belanda itu sesuatu yang pembelajaran kewarganegaraan di Belanda itu masih sekolah bahasa Belanda dibandingkan dengan negara-negara lain di Eropa yang menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Pembelajaran yang belajar berbasis teknologi, sama seperti di Indonesia kita tidak bisa memisahkan pembelajaran dan teknologi.
But in general, in those schools, there is quite a lot of it's good atmosphere, and also in international research. A few years ago, there was research on how much students like their school. And the Dutch students scored the best of the whole world.
Prof Wiel tadi mengatakan bahwa ada pernyataan tentang seberapa substantif siswa Belanda itu datang ke sekolah dan belajar, dan dari riset tersebut siswa Belanda itu memasuki komunitas bahwa mereka lebih baik pembelajaran seperti itu. Salah satu keunggulan dari pembelajaran di Belanda bahwa siswa itu memang tidak belajar sekolah. Ada lagi alasan yang nggak sakit, ada lagi alasan izin karena jalan, mungkin dan lain-lain. Mereka sangat senang dan membantu di sekolah.
Okay, so they find school very good, very pleasant. But then, when you look more into details, what they like most, well, what are the breaks?
The break.
The breaks, so between the lessons, the pause.
Oh, nah, kalau di Belanda itu pembelajaran itu tidak sampai saja, tapi ada penghubung di antara dua pembelajaran, seperti pembelajaran di sekolah dan pembelajaran di luar sekolah. Itulah yang membuat pembelajaran di Belanda, siswa di Belanda itu lebih suka belajar, lebih tidak ada lebih suka belajar dan tidak mau membuat alasan itu tidak sekolah. Karena sekolah itu menyenangkan, tidak hanya pembelajaran materi saja, tapi lingkungan. Dan pembelajaran di luar sekolah.
So,
Yeah.
so they like the breaks, no, not the lessons. And they said we like to hang around with our friends.
Yeah.
And most schools, they have quite a lot of opportunity for that. And another good point is that teachers are very positive about students and about helping students. They have a very good caring attitude.
Di Belanda juga guru sangat care terhadap siswanya, sama seperti di Indonesia juga ya. Guru memperhatikan detail pada sebelum, saat, dan setelah pembelajaran. Jadi tidak berbeda jauh dengan negara kita yang.
Yeah. Sometimes even too much.
Pada perhatian guru sedikit berlebihan Belanda.
Okay, so we have some good points in that schools, and that's fine. And some people are saying that we have all those different levels of schools. That's good. That each student can follow education on the level of own. But I say that's not good because there's too much selection in it, and also the people from different groups don't meet.
Kalau di negara Belanda itu sama seperti Indonesia juga dikelompokkan. Kalau sekolah menengah ada sendiri, sekolah atas ada sendiri, tapi itu juga membuat banyak sekali perdebatan. Karena pasti harus ada sekolah menengah, kenapa harus ada sekolah atas? Kenapa kalau saya menengah tapi saya sudah bisa, kenapa saya tidak bisa masuk sekolah atas, sekolah menengah atas? Jadi sama seperti Indonesia kita juga punya group of school. Jadi ada pengelompokan kategori pembelajaran.
Vocational and general school. Okay.
Yeah. When shall we have a break? Let's talk 50 minutes.
Yeah, break.
No, break.
No break. No.
Little bit further.
A little bit. Okay. Thank you. Continue.
Now we'll go on to the next section of my talk. And we did a lot of research on ideas that teachers have. And we found 3 different orientations on pedagogical goals or moral values, say. And the first orientation is adaptation, discipline. That means that it's very important in schools that students learn to have discipline, to behave well, to listen to the teachers and other adults, to work hard, to do their homework, to study, to be friendly to other students and to the teacher. With that orientation, adaptation, and discipline, you can see that in more traditional ways of characterization. For example, the work of Thomas Icona. The picture there, the first picture. Also already in the work of the first sociologist Emil Durkheim. So that's one orientation. The second orientation is more focusing on autonomy and critical thinking. The students learn to think for themselves, to take responsibility for their own life, to say critical. So that's a second orientation in developing as a young person. So that's very central in the work of Larry Goldberg, Lawrence Goldberg, who did a lot of research on moral education. He was at Harvard in Boston. But also you can find that in the work of the British psychologist Wiel, in his focusing on ages. Wiel is saying that not only structure determines your life, but also the agency. And it's important for people to develop more agency and can have more influence. So that's the second orientation that we found. And the third one is social orientation. That you care for other people, that you have empathy, that you're open for others, that you have feeling of social justice, that you think about what is best for all, not only for myself, also for all people. And there are these are different ideas. Some are more psychological and some are more political. Social justice is more political, empathy is more psychological. And you have different academics and pedagogues who are working on that. Particularly the work of knowledge, of care, and Paulo Freire on empowerment and social justice. So you have different orientations of that. So in our research, also in literature review, but also in empirical work, we find these three orientations. And we could analyze the data further on. And then we find three types of citizenship. The first one is adaptive citizenship, and that emphasizes discipline and social orientation, and in particular, social orientation in your own community. So that's, let's say, a more traditional way of citizenship, adaptive citizenship. The second one is an individualized citizenship, with a strong focus on autonomy, but with a weak social orientation. And the third one is a critical democratic citizenship, and that combines a focus on autonomy and social concern. So in the data, we could distinguish these three different ways of citizenship. We also could see that relates to different educational practices. If a teacher strongly works for the idea of adaptive citizenship, the teacher suggests that there are fixed values. No discussion about values and fixed values. There's a transmission of values. There's a focusing on laws or rules. And the teaching is teacher-directed. Teacher is speaking to the students. And this kind of education is very strongly education in most school systems, also in the Netherlands. The second, individualized type of citizenship education, they emphasize autonomy. That values are a personal choice. It presented itself a little bit as a technical approach, because there are no real fixed, no real central values. Independent learning is very much part of it. And this is strong in the hidden curriculum, also by all the assessments about the testing. You have to work for yourself. Like Michael Sandel writes in his book Tyranny of Merit, you really have to be responsible for yourself. There's a strong way of individualized citizenship. And the third one, the critical democratic citizenship that combines autonomy and social concern. That emphasizes a lot the joint deliberation of values and a cooperative and equality-oriented teaching. But this kind of citizenship education is difficult to realize. We had a survey among a representative sample of Dutch teachers, and about half of the teachers said we really like critical democratic citizenship education. But many of them said it's very difficult to realize that. And in practice, we are working very hard on adaptive citizenship. Behave well, listen to the parents, listen to the teacher, do your homework, be on time, be quiet. So education is full of that kind of messages. So adaptive citizenship is not that popular, but in practice is very strong. But therefore it's important to look very good between the ideals and between the practice. In reality, there's always a mix between these. It's not, you cannot say this is only adaptive citizenship education, and this is only critical citizenship education. There's a balance between these. But I think the strong point of this differentiation is that you can see that there can be differences in citizenship education. And schools and teachers can make a choice in that. I think this is a good point, good moment for having a short break. Yeah?
Yeah.
Or maybe a question.
Pertanyaan. Yeah. Break or question?
Break.
Oh, break 15 minutes.
Now it's 9:30. So the time break is 5. Jadi kita ada istirahat 15 menit. Harap sudah digabung dari 9:45. Kita bisa mulai lagi ya. Silakan kalau ini mulai lagi. Saya terima sedikit tadi ada 2 poin yang dijelaskan sama Prof. Wiel. Yang pertama, pembelajaran dan adaptasi dan berdisiplin. Nah, orientasi pembelajaran berdisiplin pada dipraktikkan dalam pembelajaran tradisional. Tokoh dalam teori ini adalah mungkin dari kemudian otonomi dan critical thinking. Nah, ini orientasi berbeda dari tradisional dan Bisa yang baru masuk jangan disesuaikan ya. Kalau Mbak bilang Pancasila discrimination bilangnya siap dibiayain. Pancasila discrimination. Oke. Sudah menunjukkan 9 ya. Yang kami jawab telah masuk ke dalam dan kita akan mulai sesi kedua.
Okay, we go on. And now I want to speak about global citizenship education. And again, in the literature and also empirical research, we found 3 types of global citizenship. First one is an open global citizenship, and that's more a neoliberal market ideology of openness. That you're open to the world, open to the market, an open global citizenship. The second one is what I call a moral global citizenship, and that's about appreciating diversity, enhancing humanity, and taking care of the world. It's a moral call for a better world. It's more a moral idea, not only open, but also making a better world and taking care of the world. This is really expressed by Nussbaum, an American philosopher, also by David Hansen on education. So the moral global citizenship was often used idea. And the third one is a more political one, the social political global citizenship. People who have those ideas, for example, Carlos Alberto Torres from Argentina and Chantal Mouffe from Belgium, who was also from Belgium, we speak about social political global citizenship. And they criticize the moral that's not political enough. It's only a moral appel and not a political program. So the moral global citizenship doesn't address enough issues of social justice, of power relations, of inequality. But here again, so 3 different orientations of global citizenship. We try to formulate rules for them. And the first one with the open is more, I find it important to gain knowledge about different cultures. I'm open to new cultural experiences. And I want to meet people from different parts of the world. So these are educational goals from the framework of open global citizenship. If you add the moral to it, the moral global citizenship, you get goals as I feel responsible for our global world, for humanity. I want to work on enlarging the opportunities of all human beings. I appreciate cultural differences between people. So that's more the moral global citizenship. So these are different educational goals. And the third one, the social political global citizenship. Then you should think about goals as I'm aware of social and political power relations in the global world. Or I want to strive for more equal social and political power in the global world. And I support the struggle of underprivileged people to gain more power. A few years ago, I asked students here in the universities, so young, older colleagues, a few, I asked them what they find important goals. And I also did that with my students in the program of moral education and citizenship education in my university in Utrecht. And what do you think would be the difference between the Indonesian students and the Dutch students?
What's the difference? What's the difference or what's
What
more
I asked them, what do you find important? So, and do they find the same things important, or is there a difference in importance they attach to these goals between Indonesian students and between the Dutch students?
Orang tadi menjelaskan tentang 3 tipe kewarganegaraan global. Yang ada yang bisa memberikan itu apa pendapatnya mengenai kewarganegaraan global ini? Apakah sama di Indonesia dengan di Belanda? Apakah pendidikan kewarganegaraan itu berbeda di Indonesia dengan di Belanda? Gimana pendapatnya? Ayo.
Yeah.
Kan tadi menjelaskan tentang global citizenship ini.
We can also ask it the other way. So the open, who thinks that the Indonesian people score higher than the Dutch? Who?
Ya, dalam global citizenship yang terbuka tadi, Indonesia itu lebih apa ya, tinggi bahasa Indonesia
Mana yang lebih penting di antara
lebih penting dibanding ada yang bisa menjelaskan
yang open? Coba
siapa yang lebih suka open, siapa yang lebih moral, mana yang political, social political, ayo mana yang lebih open dan yang lebih terbuka, yang lebih kalian pilih dibanding 3 ini. Kalau paham ya Pak.
di antara 3 ini, teman-teman pilih yang mana? Open, moral atau sudah publik? Yang open siapa? Angkat tangan.
Yang pilih open pendidikan kewarganegaraan paling ketiga atau yang kedua pendidikan moral yang paling penting, yang ketiga sosial kultur mana yang paling penting? Coba pilih open, angkat yang pilih open pendidikan kewarganegaraan terbuka yang mana? Gak ada. No one choose the open. Kalau yang moral?
Angkat tangan dong, jangan malu-malu. Banyak.
Sosial political?
Oh, only one. Okay.
They choose moral better than open social political.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Interesting. And when I did the research 2 years ago, my students and the students here, there were not real differences between Indonesian students and Dutch students on the open moral citizenship. They both find it important. Also on the moral, there are not so much differences between the Indonesian students and the Dutch students. But then there are quite big differences. But there are quite differences on the socio-political. The Indonesian students, they're more socio-political than the Dutch students. Yeah. But that's a little bit of problem in the Netherlands, that people are not so much focusing on the political. They're focusing a lot on the moral, they're not on the political.
Kalau di negara Belanda itu pendidikan kewarganegaraan fokus ke moral, tidak ada bahasa mengenai politik. Makanya sosial politik di Indonesia itu lebih tinggi dibandingkan yang di negara Belanda.
Yeah. And I try to show that the political is also important.
Makanya Prof Wiel mengatakan bahwa sosial politik itu juga penting dan juga dilakukan seperti bahwa banyak sekali keunggulan-keunggulan yang dipelajari di Indonesia bukan hanya tentang belajar moral dan etika saja, tetapi juga membelajarkan tentang bagaimana perpolitikan informasi itu mengenai berpolitik di Indonesia.
They here say that Dutch teachers, they are reluctant to focus explicitly on political values, and in particular on more transformative ideas. And my position is that teachers should show that a socio-political global perspective is one of the perspectives. So that's my argument to make it more political. Not only political, but show that besides the open and the moral, also the political is important. Then I want to speak about developments in citizenship education. Global, wide, but in particular in the European Union. I did two research projects for the European Parliament of the European Union. They asked me to inquire how the different 28 countries pay attention to the values of democracy and tolerance. And I did a survey among academic experts in all the 28 countries, and we wrote a report about it. That was in 2017, and in 2021, they asked me to do a research project on how citizenship education is implemented in the different countries. And here's some conclusions, some developments. At the moment, nature gets quite a lot of attention in citizenship education. To the multicultural society, but also the questions of climate, sustainability, they get a lot of attention in citizenship education. And I think in a way that's good. But we see in many European countries, social class and power relations don't get so much attention at the moment. So you could say that the political is a little bit fading away from citizenship education. And we should be aware of that. Also, in many countries, there is a limited idea about democracy. I think it's important to include social justice as part of democracy, not only freedom of speech, pluralism, but also social justice should be a part of democracy. There is orientation to globalization, to the global world, in citizenship education, but also there is an inward looking in national citizenship, the own history of the country. And in the Netherlands, we have related to citizenship education a lot of debates about the content of citizenship education. For example, there's a debate about how we should teach students about the independence war of Indonesia, the 45-49 period. So what Sukarno tried to build the independence of Indonesia. How the Dutch students should learn about that? Formerly it was more that we the Dutch were very good for you, look, you're Indonesian people, we cultivated you, and now you don't want to listen anymore to us, you want to be independent. So that was more the old story. And the new story is more that it was the right of the Indonesian people to make their own choice and to build their own nation. And we should support that. And also in Bersac period, the Dutch have taken mistakes. We should be open about that. So it is related to citizenship. There's always a discussion about how you present your history. The same with the VOC. How the VOC has been working. Traditionally, there was more speaking about the Dutch. They were very brave. They were ruling the oceans, and they went all the way to India, to Indonesia, to buy the spices and all, and the gold and the silver, and bring it back to the Netherlands, helping those people in Indonesia. And so the VOC was presented as very proud. And even the Dutch president, prime minister, 15 years ago said we should have the VOC mentality back. And that bit, you're crazy. The VOC also did very bad things. So there's always a discussion about how to present the history. And it's good that you show that there are different perspectives, and also that people are willing to admit the faults they made. So that's the discussion about the inward-looking international citizenship, but also the global citizenship. They can have different orientation, as I just explained already. And in particular, Carlos Alberto Thomas said, is saying that global citizenship education can either be influenced by competition, like it's now, mostly dominant, or by solidarity. And he argues global citizenship education should be more the form of solidarity. Then, in the European Union, in many countries, also the Netherlands, there is still a lot of inequality. Even you can say inequality is growing. Inequality in income and wealth, but also inequality in the chances of students. I think it's very good, and I'm very happy about that many students of migrants are doing very well in school. They're doing very well. But still for them it's more difficult to have success in school, and in particular to have success on the labor market. Things are going better, but still we have a long way to combat inequality. And nowadays people don't use so much the word employment when speaking about citizenship, but more speaking about sustainability. I think it's good, but we also should stay speaking about the global. And a very important finding of the whole study was that there's not only a gap between policy and practice, between theory and practice, but also a gap within policy. And by that, we mean that on a high level, there are nice goals for citizenship education. But the concrete measures in the curriculum and in the hours for the topic, for the subject of citizenship education, in many countries, it's not that good. There are good examples of developments. For example, Portugal, Finland, Croatia. Well, some countries are doing very well in Europe and making a very comprehensive moral and citizenship education. Any questions about this?
For that question, like saya sebagai status mengenai pendidikan kewarganegaraan di Eropa. Nah, pendidikan kewarganegaraan Eropa itu ada 3 poin. Pertama, pressure and culture menjadikan kemudian dibandingkan kelas sosial dan relasi kekuasaan. Yang kedua, keterbatasan pembahasan tentang demokrasi. Kemudian fragility dari kewarganegaraan di Eropa, dari Eropa. Kemudian global citizenship itu lebih menuju pada neoliberalisme jika di Eropa. Kemudian ketidaksamaan pendidikan kewarganegaraan di Eropa di setiap negaranya. Kemudian lebih sedikit pembahasan mengenai global di Eropa. Kemudian adanya kekosongan dalam pembahasan demokrasi dan politik serta kebijakan di Eropa. Jadi mereka lebih fokus pada sejarah dan kebudayaan Eropa. Juga mengacu pada pendidikan kewarganegaraan. Apakah ada pertanyaan? Ada question? Berarti kalau nggak nanti berarti nggak organisasi nggak sih? Ada pertanyaan tidak? Oh, saya sudah sini ya. Masih mungkin itu sudah sini. Kayaknya, oh iya boleh deh. Di mana nih kita tadi? Oke silakan. Bisa itu ya. Diterjemahkan langsung ya. Selamat pagi beberapa nama saya Susanti Nafiana dari kelas PKN tahun 2023. Saya isi pertanyaan Kak.
New student.
Kan dalam budaya pendidikan kewarganegaraan di Belanda itu kan jelas berbeda ya dari Indonesia. Nah maksudnya itu gimana cara kita itu meningkatkan kualitas budaya Indonesia ini jauh lebih baik lagi dengan berkembang ke Belanda gitu.
How to increase quality of culture in Indonesia with advanced culture.
Tips ya, berarti kita nanya tips ya. Tips what's make education
How to increase
in Netherlands, so the tips to increase the moral education in Indonesia at the same level as education in the Netherlands. Thank you.
This is a good question, Sam. Comparing, it's always difficult to compare different countries and different cultural systems. But what I really like in Asian countries, and so I'm familiar particularly with Indonesia, also with China and Taiwan and Hong Kong and in Thailand and Singapore. And at the moment we are making a special issue of the journal of moral education about moral and citizenship education in Southeast Asia. And Dr. Samsuri is right out in an article about Indonesia. We have articles about other parts of East Asia. And what I particularly like in East Asia is that there is a strong social focus. People have a strong social orientation. And that's partly due to the culture, also partly due to the religious. And in Western societies, sometimes I think the individualization has become too strong. Autonomy of students, the autonomy of people is sometimes too strong. And my colleague Harry Kunneman is always saying that Dutch people, they have a big ego. And also Dutch youngsters, they need a lot of space. And they have a lot of opinions. They have ideas about everything. And also teachers often say it's so difficult to work in the classroom because more than you believe. And they also have they all need a lot of space, a lot of attention. Yeah? So I think those the Netherlands and Indonesia, they should find a good balance between autonomy and the social orientation. And as I often say to my Asian colleagues, that the West should become more social, and the East should become more autonomous. So that the social is good, and it's good that you have a family, a community that supports you, but also it's important that people get freedom, that make their own choices, that develop their own life. So that is important to have that good balance in that between. So that's what we can learn from each other. The Dutch, that it's good to be social. And the Asian people, that's good that young people have some freedom and open address and some freedom. So I think that's the most important lesson. Thank you for that question.
Termasuk pertanyaannya izin pertemuan kecemasannya. Sehingga pendidikan di organisasi tengah khususnya di Indonesia itu fokus pada pemberdayaan masyarakat dan kultur budaya. Dan ini tidak ditemukan di negara-negara yang karena mereka lebih individualistik dan lebih independen. Serta stigma mereka menjadi stigma bahwa orang Eropa itu menjadi egois ini, dan mereka selalu berpikir tentang semua hal. Nah, harapan dari Prof adalah kita harus punya good balance karena otonomi dalam pembelajaran seperti di Eropa dan kultural budaya dalam pembelajaran seperti di Indonesia seperti itu. Kita Indonesia pun harus memiliki memberikan akses kebebasan kepada siswa untuk berpendapat seperti di Eropa, dan Eropa pun harus memiliki kultur budaya seperti Indonesia bahwa mereka tidak tinggal sendiri, bahwa ada budaya-budaya mereka yang harus dipelajari itu. Sudah dipahami ada pertanyaannya? That's enough for question.
Satu lagi.
One more question. Yes, thank you. Anyone can give the microphone for the beautiful ladies with the pinks attire.
Ini ada nanti. Nanti ini yang ketiga ya, Mbak.
Terima kasih untuk waktunya. Pertama saya Ciri. Jadi pertanyaan selanjutnya adalah di Indonesia sendiri ada pendidikan moral, pendidikan kewarganegaraan. Di sini diadakan pendidikan kewarganegaraan itu karena pada dasarnya ada Pancasila sebagai ideologi bangsa Indonesia. Dan pertanyaan saya, bagaimana pentingnya pendidikan kewarganegaraan bagi orang di Eropa sana, dan bagaimana pandangan orang Eropa mengenai pendidikan kewarganegaraan sendiri. Terima kasih.
How civic education important for Europe citizen? How citizenship education become important for all people in Europe?
For the question, let me translate it first. Indonesian people like Indonesian students, they learn moral education. It's based from Pancasila. And what about the European student? They are not have Pancasila as base of the citizenship. Wants to make a difference Indonesia between the European education, especially citizenship education.
How important citizenship education for?
All the important citizenship education.
Yeah.
Thank you for the interesting question. And as I already was saying about the two research I did for the European Parliament. So in Europe, it's very important the concept of democracy, and the concept of tolerance, pluralism, freedom of speech. That kind of values are important, human rights. And so I want to add to that social justice. I think that's also very important. So so there is a discussion about what's important in citizenship, and then your question how to improve it in schools. And some countries they have specific subject citizenship education. In the Netherlands, for example, we don't have a subject citizenship education, but schools have, but we have social studies, and that's in that there's a lot of citizenship education. Students have history, geography, so all those subjects are part of citizenship education. And this is already my next slide. So in 2006, we had a new law, and that emphasized more that schools should pay attention to citizenship. And the central concept at that time of active participation, social integration, and Dutch history. That was the law of 2006. And there was an evaluation, for example, by the school inspectorate. And they said many schools don't have a policy and we practice. And some schools don't pay much attention to democracy and to gender issues. And in 2016, the Dutch students have not very good results as a study, the international study of comparative citizenship education. So the idea was, also the politicians were thinking about that we should improve the law. And in 2021, a new law became, and it said the students should pay more attention to democracy and gender issues, and to negative aspects of the Dutch history, kind of things we just talked about. And also, that's important, schools should make more policy on citizenship education. You should produce a document with all the activities and all the curriculum context in it. And that's an interesting job in schools, and many of my former students are doing that kind of work, that they're helping students to make a policy, to writing a document, to organizing activities. So citizenship education in the Netherlands, but in all European countries, became more important. And it's not that easy for the government how to improve it. There's some countries they introduce a special subject of citizenship education, like Germany, Finland, Spain. Other schools, other countries are saying all the subjects should integrate it, like the Netherlands. But in general, there is a policy to try to improve it. So the next slide is about the practice in the Netherlands. There's probably already a lot about it, but here, kind of summarizing. There's really a segregation of culture and social class in Dutch schools, related to the religious schools and related to the early selection and streaming. I think that's really, I'm not the only one. This is really an issue for Dutch politics. In the way it's put that in Dutch schools there's a lot of attention to the well-being of the students. But as I said before, sometimes there's too much attention for that. We have good balance between learning and caring in schools. There are interesting examples of student participation in schools. But you cannot say really that it's democratic education involves even more possibilities for students to influence the curriculum, the organization, the culture. In quite a lot of Western countries, also the Netherlands, there's the problem of bullying in the classroom, and also on social media. I don't know how exactly it is in Indonesia, but what I heard sometimes, they also schools have problems with bullying. And we have quite a lot of projects to fight against bullying. I think that's important. And in the Netherlands, we have a lot of focusing on child-centered pedagogy, not so much on critical pedagogy. So more oriented than to society. Because of this, we have got subjects. Just integrate the Netherlands in a lot of integration of subjects. Some good examples of a lot of schools have nice projects. Beside the curriculum, formal curriculum, they have nice projects. I'll give some examples. First one, mock elections. That means that when there are official elections, students simulate elections in the school. The schools simulate elections for the students. So the students can vote for the party, for the official parties. And often they also do that in primary schools. And then in the Netherlands, we have 20 parties in parliament. How many parties do you have in Indonesia parliament?
Maybe, I don't know, I want to be.
Simulasi.
19.
19?
Yeah.
19. Oh, we have 20. Oh.
Yeah, you
24 sekarang. 24.
Oh, now it's 24. Yeah, we already have 2 sessions of the party. Aku kalau nggak memenuhi kuota kursi itu kan nggak bisa.
Ya. Electoral threshold.
Ya,
Electoral threshold.
electoral threshold.
Yeah.
So the party
Minimum 4%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have quite a lot of parties. And,
Yeah.
And for example, the United States has only 2 parties.
2 parties.
Yeah.
Big parties.
In UK, they have 4 parties. In the Netherlands, we have a lot.
A lot.
And
We have 24. 24.
and so and we also have the whole range from populist parties to very left parties, Green parties, and Christian. We have
Christian
3 different Christian parties. We have 3 different liberal parties. But recent 2 decades, the populist parties in the Netherlands and also in Europe in general became quite popular. Yeah. And nowadays about 1/3 of the voters in the Netherlands they vote for the populist party. So that's quite a lot. And so we have 3 blocks at the moment. So about 1/3 populist party, 1/3 more in the middle, liberal parties and Christian parties, and 1 more on the left, the Social Democratic Party, the Green Party, Socialist Party, the Party of the Animals.
Environment. Green Party.
Yeah. So the 3 blocks, 3 big blocks, and yeah, in particular, from a democratic point of view and the multicultural idea, I'm very concerned about some of the populist parties. And we have 4 populist parties, and one, the most popular, most famous one, the oldest one, even called Party of the Freedom, and not have freedom.
No freedom.
No freedom, at least not for immigrants. And so they want to close all the mosques, okay, and they don't want to have any more refugees. So yeah, there's not. Some of the populist parties, they are not that anti-migrant so much, and they are more focusing on the region. So they say the politics in the Netherlands is very much dominated by the western part of the Netherlands. The big cities, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, Utrecht, the intellectuals, they are dominating politics. And the rural areas with the farmers, they don't get attention. So recently we had a real protest of the farmers, the Dutch farmers, because of the climate change, they had to reduce the amount of animals. And so now the party of the farmers is very strong. The real original party. So schools, they have the mock election, and that's not always very positive results, because about 20 years ago, the Green Party was very popular among young students, but now the Populist Party is quite popular among students. So that's not very optimistic. And in primary schools, they also often have those elections, and then the party of the animals.
Oh yeah.
All those rabbits and cats.
Best translated.
Yeah.
Nanti tadi pertanyaannya ini dijawab dengan 3 slide ya. Pertanyaan pendidikan moral lingkungan di Indonesia itu kan bagi Pancasila bagaimana dengan ada di Eropa gitu. Jawaban dari Prof adalah Eropa itu berfokus pada pembangunan demokrasi dan toleransi kebebasan dalam negara. Nah, sosial justice juga penting di Eropa. Di negara Belanda itu tidak ada mata pelajaran terkait keluarga negara itu tidak ada di Belanda. Tetapi walaupun dalam pembelajaran ilmu sosial. Nah, pada tahun 2006 itu dikeluarkan undang-undang bahwa sekolah harus fokus pada pembelajaran moral demokrasi. Namun setelah 10 tahun ya, 4 tahun berikutnya, jadi TM itu masuk survei bahwa siswa di Belanda itu masuk ke dalam daftar yang negara tidak berkembang dalam pembelajaran berbasis culture gitu. Nah, kemudian pada tahun 2020 itu dikeluarkan undang-undang bahwa siswa harus fokus pada belajar demokrasi dan serta berbasis sejarah Belanda dan berkesinambungan dengan kurikulum sekolah yang berbasis moral. Nah, sulit bagi negara Belanda itu untuk improve pendidikan kewarganegaraannya. Nah, negara Belanda ini karena ambil sedikit tinggal dari negara Jerman seperti itu. Nah, dan di Indonesia kita punya proyek kewarganegaraan kan, Prof dan teman-teman semua. Kalau di negara Belanda juga punya proyek kewarganegaraan ada 6. Yang pertama adalah simulasi pemilihan umum di Belanda, kemudian pendidikan anti-bullying, pendidikan multikultur, pembelajaran berbasis pelayanan, komunitas dalam pembelajaran, serta donasi untuk meningkatkan empati. Jadi proyek kewarganegaraan di Belanda itu lengkap. Kemudian di Belanda kan undang-undang 2021 tadi kan, 2021 tadi intinya adalah sekolah berbasis kebudayaan di Belanda, kemudian pemisahan antara sosial dan budaya di Belanda dalam pembelajaran, kemudian ada mentorship, kemudian adanya partisipasi siswa, namun belum maksimal, kemudian adanya homeschooling di Belanda itu baik di sekolah maupun di sosial media, dan fokus pembelajaran belum pada siswa, namun masih pada guru dan belum critical orientation seperti itu. Apakah sudah dipahami itu pertanyaannya tadi? Sudah clear ya?
Tadi ada satu yang depan mau nanya. Ya, ya.
Ini gimana ya? Saya punya kesempatan 2023. And my question is, how can you explain the comprehensive moral citizenship education, and how do they make it happen?
Repeat one more.
Repeat.
Slowly, slowly.
Some countries
Some countries.
set around citizenship education, and my question is, how do they make it happen? Okay, thank you. One country, a comprehensive moral education. Some countries they make a comprehensive moral citizenship education. And what is gonna be happen with those countries like European countries?
Good question. So, in countries like I said before, Portugal, Finland, Croatia, they really had a policy about education in general. They find education very important, and they have a policy about it, and also in that the citizenship and moral education is important. In some other countries, for example, the Netherlands, they emphasize a lot of basics. And I'm not saying that those other countries don't emphasize that, but they're more strongly focusing on moral education and citizenship education. So it's important that those countries have a strong policy, and what is important, a strong support of the community. There's not only the politics that are speaking about education, but the whole community is interested in education and health. So the examples that I'm giving there for projects, they are often examples of working together with the community. And for example, so the multicultural society, the projects that schools have, that they work together with different cultural and religious groups, so that the students can learn about the differences. And many schools have projects on service learning. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, service learning. But that means that students do activities outside the school. And it's more than only a visit. They really do activities working. And there are some very nice examples. In particular, I really like projects that in which students, often even from primary schools, help elder people with using the computer or using mobile phones. Because it's very funny. I've seen that the young students are teaching elder people how to work with the computer, how to work with the mobile phone.
How to work with the laptop.
Yeah. It's a kind of what I call the reverse pedagogy.
Oh, pedagogy.
The young are teaching the elder. So that kind of projects are very nice.
Yeah.
But also for making food for the homeless people. And that kind of project. And also activities what we call community work. That students help to organize community activities, sport activities, cultural activities, but also keep helping and cleaning the environment. So that kind of activities.
What relates to of the education?
But
Sorry?
Community learning, but based on surface learning.
Yeah. So service learning is quite a big activities of all schools. And so community work, so it's a little bit similar but different orientation. And also charity. Very popular is that students are running
Yeah.
For example, 10 kilometers running, and then you can sponsor them.
Sponsor.
And they collect money then for
Yeah. Fundraising.
fundraising. In particular, for example, so like recently with Morocco and Turkey when there were earthquakes, and then you organize that kind of activity, fundraising activities. So that are good. I think that are good examples of projects in schools, and in particular projects that are linked school with the community. Some concerns I have, most of them I've been speaking already about. The strong segregation in Dutch education, the strong individualism in Dutch society, the better balance of autonomy and social concern, the involvement in society of some groups. For some groups, also the weak political participation. Social media and fake news. Sometimes I think it gets too much attention. But of course, we should pay attention to that. And then the issue, it concerns a little bit to your question about different opinions. And for teachers, it's very difficult to teach about controversial issues. And that can be either about sexuality, it can be about the history, about slavery, for example, about the Holocaust, about that topics are sometimes difficult to teach about in classrooms, but important to do. Then concerned about the good balance between basics and citizenship, and the balance in policy between steering and control. And there's a challenge for educational policy that it should steer in the way of helping schools, not determine everything that's going on, and some control, but not so much control that schools don't have freedom to make their own education. So these are real concerns. And here, this is more idealistic, what I really want. And in particular, I want to emphasize the second bullet.
Second bullet.
Dialogical, cooperative, and
Inquiry.
inquiry methodology of teaching and learning. I say that's so important. In many studies, for example, ICCF study, it shows that that is the most important, most influential variable. A more dialogical classroom. The more it is, the better the results on citizenship.
Open any question?
Yeah. And this is about teaching the last slide, showing different perspectives is important. Showing that the political is one of the alternatives. Stimulating openness, dialogue, valuing diversity, care about the world, humanity, and democracy. Showing your own values. I think as teacher, it must be good to show your own values. Also, we also have some research projects to ask students what they think about as teachers show their values. And they say it's good. They are human beings, they may show their values. And but they shouldn't stress too much their own values as well. They show their diversity. This is an open access book that published with people from 7 universities in Europe. Get a project together on education for democratic intercultural citizenship. There's open access, you can download it for free. This is my new book, just published 1 month ago. Here,
And then new book.
and here, very proud of, together with my friend Dr. Samsuri, the new book. Wow. The first time I see it.
The first time in bahasa.
The bahasa is in bahasa. So in the bahasa book, articles of me and also of Dr. Samsuri are about the theory and practice of citizenship education. So many of the ideas we're speaking about today, you can find it in the bahasa, or if you try to go for English, in the English books. Okay. Yes.
Let me translate it first.
Yeah.
Tadi pertanyaannya Kak, banyak sekali aspek dalam pembelajaran kewarganegaraan seperti itu. Nah, di negara-negara Eropa, yang Kroasia itu salah satu negara yang membuat pembelajaran kewarganegaraan itu berkesinambungan. Kemudian di Belanda itu pendidikan kewarganegaraan masih belum berkembang dan belum berfokus pada pembelajaran moral. Nah, penting bagi negara-negara untuk punya kebijakan pendidikan politik saja, melainkan multikultural dan ada moral di dalamnya. Kemudian kan ada laboratorium kewarganegaraan di Belanda ya. Nah, di Belanda itu ada namanya berbagai pelayanan. Jadi visual langsung datang ke pelayanan seperti membuat makanan untuk orang-orang yang tunawisma yang belum punya rumah, supaya mereka buat makanan, kemudian datang ke panti asuhan juga panti jompo, kemudian membuat makanan untuk mereka dan mereka itu adalah kewarganegaraan di dalam Belanda. Kemudian ini masalah yang ada di negara Belanda terutama yang pertama adanya pemisahan antara partisipasi politik dalam pendidikan di Belanda, kemudian sulit untuk belajar tentang isu-isu kontroversial di negara Belanda. Kemudian perlu adanya kesinambungan antara kurikulum dalam pembelajaran di Belanda. Yang perlu ditingkatkan munculnya perbedaan dan perspektif siswa bahwa di negara-negara Belanda, terutama negara-negara yang banyak migrannya, perlu diterapkan bahwa setiap siswa itu memiliki perbedaan perspektif seperti itu. Dan itu yang harusnya kita bisa contoh dari pendidikan kewarganegaraan di Belanda. Seperti itu Profil dan buku Profil tadi bisa oleh kecil teman-teman. Boleh sekarang diketik. You can also search online. Bisa diketik dulu sekarang, ayo download dulu di Veugelers.com atau www.girls.com. Silakan diketik dulu di itu ada kumpulan jurnal ya?
Ada.
Research dari
Gampang. Nanti aja.
Oke, ini bisa kita punya. Kemudian ini barunya oral and political dimension critical democratic as a definition, karena tadi bahwa pendidikan demokratis di negara Belanda itu beda dengan Indonesia ya. Kita begitu kompleks, kita ada di situ, kita ada budaya di situ, kita juga belajar orang, tapi di negara Belanda itu belum bisa dikatakan belum seberapa baik Indonesia ya. Kalau kita bisa bilang bahwa Indonesia lebih unggul dibandingkan Belanda untuk konsep pendidikan kewarganegaraan yang lebih kompleks. Tepuk tangan dulu ketika kita profil dulu.
Question mungkin 5 menit kalau ada tanya. Nggak apa-apa.
Ada lagi pertanyaan?
Nah.
Oke, pertanyaannya yang paling antusias ini. Bisa terjemahkan
the last session for question.
Yeah. It's good that we have a very good speech.
Ayo silakan berdiri dan pertanyaan itu.
Dewa, his name Dewa.
The question is with one of the provisions of the multicultural society activity project Veugelers. How European society or society perceive freedom of speech in ways that are perceived to controversial. Let's say like learning digital.
How the Netherlands that is what about the Netherlands community and social community at school who pretending the social issue about pembakaran Bibles ya?
Burning.
Okay,
Burning.
burning the holy book, for example, like Bibles of the Europeans. How it's going to happen and what the tips to make it better. Ya kan, gimana cara memperbaikinya dan apa tips yang bisa diambil dari? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. And personally, I think you never should do things like that. And the formal political argument in the Netherlands, and also in Sweden and Denmark, because there's at the moment more issue, and but people have the freedom of speech to do that. But you always should have a balance between the freedom of speech and being respectful to other people. And yeah, burning books is not respectful for other people. And so if the book should, for example, the books of Hitler, they are not that easy to buy in the Netherlands. And I think that's good. I won't say easy to choose great books, but books in which that you can ask for killing other people, that should be not promoted. And I'm not an expert on Islam, but I don't think the Quran is that worse. They don't ask for killing. So, and also in the Bible, you can find sentences that are not friendly about other groups. And but people shouldn't do that kind of activities. And yeah, I hope it stops.
Itu masyarakatnya sudah punya kemampuan dan punya respect untuk menghargai perbedaan antara agama seperti itu di Eropa. Namun, Prof tadi mengatakan bahwa pembakaran Bible itu memang tidak bisa dilakukan, tapi kalau punya respect. Namun pembatasan buku ada yang dilakukan satu di Belanda, yaitu pembatasan buku konfrontasi itu adalah buku dari Hitler karena ajaran kebencian, dan ini buku ini sulit kita ditemukan di Eropa karena adanya pembatasan gitu. Tapi jika kita apakah itu dimaksud dalam ajaran kebencian? Tentu saja tidak, karena ini adalah preventif dari negara-negara Eropa untuk tidak menggunakan kekerasan seperti itu. Karena di yang kita tadi ada tentang buku yang kita tadi mengajarkan tentang kekerasan, pembunuhan dan lain-lain. Makanya negara Eropa punya aturan untuk buku ini tidak boleh diedarkan di negara Eropa. Hanya itu saja. Buku-buku yang mengandung ujaran kebencian. Tapi untuk kitab suci dan lain-lain itu tidak ada batasan untuk pengaruhnya atau mempelajari buku itu seperti itu. Jadi everything is good. Well done. That's all. That's all about our discussion today. I hope that you'll stay happy with us.
And I want to say that I really like that you ask questions in between. So I wasn't speaking only for 2 hours, and then 50 minutes question. It was nice to have questions in between. It's more a dialogue. So thanks for that.
Profil sangat senang video kita dialog video aja begitu singkat karena ada komunikasi antara diskusi dan profil. Jadi ini bukan lebih singkat tapi lebih berdialog. Thank you for.
Yeah. Last question. Last.
And then I say you study a very important job. As a teacher of citizenship education is so important. For each country, but in particular also I think Indonesia. So all the best for you for in your professional life, but also in your family, in your personal and family life. So, make a nice future.
Because I know profil pertama pertama dari guru, saya dari guru bisa we are so we as we close our today activities, let's provide insight ethical value for our physical and perform understanding of politics citizens. This knowledge is essential for building a just responsible society in the 21st century. Please join me in first. Please acknowledge the essential. Please join me in expressing our heartfelt gratitude from Wiel and our panel expert, Bapak Samsuri and Bapak Prof. Kuliah Umum dan Bapak Budiono dan Ibu Wiel yang sudah hadir. Jika boleh lebih baik, as we acquire ladies, let's remember that the ethical value and moral and political dimension of the secret education are the constant goal for shaping the responsible technical Thank you for being a part of this seminar. You should a wonderful day ahead, and may the knowledge shared continue to inspire us teaching our beautiful community. Thank you so much for your time and place in this class and pada baik sudah banyak sekali pertanyaan yang luar biasa untuk Prof. dan kita semua. Oke, boleh. Perasaan ya? Oke, perkenalan kita foto perkenalan dari komunikasi dan juga sebagai keberkatan untuk kita semua bahwa Prof jauh-jauh dari Belanda untuk memberikan pengalaman tentang pendidikan kewarganegaraan. Boleh?
Just gathering photo. It's class.
21 ada berapa kan? 21 ada. 22 ada.
23 semua ini, Mbak.
Dan 23.
A dan B.
Kita mulai dari